Good morning, everyone. This is Krista with Magnolia Ridge Farm and Garden, and today we're going to be talking about garden planting. So much of the country right now is covered in snow. I think they said like 12 states are getting a massive snow and ice storm right now. So while we are currently sunny today, we are supposed to get rain for the next 2 days. And this is like the perfect time, since everybody's going to be inside, like literally half the country is inside. This is the perfect time to garden plan. I know Poxitani Phil said 6 more weeks of winter this morning, but there's a lot to start doing now to get ready for the garden. I know I personally here in North Carolina have started some of our brassica seeds in our greenhouse. Well, technically in my dad's greenhouse, because as you are about to see, mine is still, a frame out of commission right now. Okay, sorry, quick pause. Had to let the dog in to the house so he would quit barking. So we have started our seeds, but those will go out before the last frost. And our last frost estimate is around April 4th is our average. But we've had them as late as April 20th. However, our brassicas, like broccoli and cabbage and stuff, they will actually go out by the beginning of March because they can handle the cold that we get, because we will warm up so fast, especially during the day. We'll start getting up into the 70s in March. So we have to get ours started early, because if we don't, since they can handle the frost, if we don't get them out early enough, they will bolt in the spring and then we won't get any. So we kind of, having done this for so many years, we have learned that we can either start them too late by literally a week, or start them, a little too early by a week, but we can judge when we put them out. So they may just be a little bigger when we put them out. It's spring and fall. It's kind of a gamble no matter which way you go, but we get hot so fast that the brassicas, they just can't take it if you don't get them out in time. So having said that, I want to show you kind of how I garden plan. And it's kind of a loose plan because I am always liable to change things. I may end up with more plants or not as many plants as I thought, and so my beds will kind of get jumbled around a little bit. But I'm going to give you what I do sort of every year, just to give me a guideline to go by in the beginning. And the best way to do that is I'm going to have to show you how my garden's laid out. And with it being the winter and it having been snowy and muddy this year, so we haven't been outside as much at this point as normal, my garden is a wreck, like complete and utter wreck. So I have tall like weeds that are just laying down in the in-ground areas, and I have some broom sage that has grown up around the perimeter of one of my big gardens. So you get to see my garden space in all of its messy glory, including the raised bed garden, which has tote boxes in the center of it right now because they are normally in the greenhouse, but everything has been pulled out of the greenhouse because we're having to redo it. So yes, you get to see my full-on garden hot mess. So the best way for me to show you the layout is to do it from above, and I don't have to use a drone because fortunately my deck on the back of my house is really tall, so I can actually stand on the back of my deck and look out over the entire back area. So that is what we're going to do. So I'm going to do my best to show you in kind of a concise manner, and then take you inside and show you how I garden plan. So let's get started. Okay, so the first area that I'm going to be showing you is our fire pit deck. So we have a fire pit right there, and my husband custom designed this deck, and he included some planting beds around the perimeter, and they were originally going to go all the way around the outside. I don't know if we are still going to do that, just because when I let my chickens out, they like to use these beds as giant dust baths. So I am going to fence these 3 that I have in with some poultry netting and some T-posts just to keep them out of it for the spring. and then decide what I want to do. The third bed right there is actually an asparagus bed, and I do have wire up around the asparagus. It's just not done very well, so I'm going to redo that. Eventually I want to build some actual like nice covers for these, but we haven't gotten there yet. So for this spring, last year I put broccoli in there, or was it the year before? I think it was the year before, and it did wonderful. However, you know, chickens. So what I'm going to do this year is I've got bags of amendment because I haven't done anything with it in a long time, since at least last summer. So I'm going to amend the soil, and I'm going to put a lot of those free bulbs that we got from the city. I'm going to seed those really heavy in there and hope for some cut flowers. So we will see how that goes. And that's also for an attractant for my bees, which if you look right back in the back corner by the woods, you will see my beehives. So let's move over to the garden area. So my garden area actually encompasses from here all the way over there and all the way back. So my chicken lot is right there, and we have a berry garden back there that's got like blackberries. You can kind of see the posts. Let me see if I can zoom in. So you can kind of see the posts, woo, back there by the beehives. So it's all back in there is the berries. So this is my main garden right here, and I have a cat rubbing up against the camera here. Sorry about that. And so I'm trying to hold it steady on the porch rail. But this is my main raised bed garden, and that is my greenhouse. It is the skeleton of the greenhouse right now because we are redoing it. And it is, for size perspective, it is about a 11 by 12, I believe. So the raised bed garden is 70 feet long by 30 feet wide. And so each side is identical. And there is a patio in the center with the gate comes right into the patio, and there's a table and chairs, and I have all the greenhouse totes right there, and then it goes straight into the greenhouse. And then this side is identical to this side. So the beds form, I don't know if you can see this. Here we go. This is easy to see. So the beds form a U all the way down here and around, and then there's bigger center beds. So the outside beds are roughly 3 foot by 5 foot, and they all connect. And then the center beds are, I want to say 4 by 6 or 4 by 5. And the only difference is at this end, there is not a center one in the middle because there is a door into the chicken coop. So that is the only difference, is this end has one more bed. And you can kind of see our construction debris and our sprinkler system down there that we're going to put in. So anyway, so that is my main garden. And then out here where you see the silver tarp, so between the greenhouse and the top of the fence here, there are rows underneath that are compost rows. So that was my no-till garden last year, but we never got all of our chips put down for the rows, so we had a bit of a grass problem. So I have a tarp that I had over the greenhouse when the plastic ripped up in the storm. I have it laying over the center part of the garden, hopefully killing some of that grass there. And then I also have some half barrels up here at the top that I used for potatoes year before last. Last year I didn't use them at all. And then on the other side of the greenhouse, there's another strip from the greenhouse to the chicken lot there that is also an in-ground garden, but it is not done in rows. It is more just, I guess, like the whole thing is a no-till. And then there's like 2 small pathways that again was supposed to have chips, but it did not. And then this huge area out here that has all of the fences. There is 100 feet of cattle panel trellises in 3 rows, 3 or 4 rows. I think it's 3 rows. That actually is an area that we have leveled out for a 100 foot by 32 foot high tunnel and you can see the beams over here, right there. You can see the arches and the beams, and there's a roll-up door right there. So that's why that area is all grown up. Whoops. Because we can't mow over there right now, and the winter storms have taken some branches down and the grass has gotten tall, because over there in all of that grass are beams and poles and pieces of, we actually have two. We have a 100-foot and a 60-foot. But I think we are only going to use the one. So we've been leveling that out, but last year I had so many tomato plants that I ended up using the black fabric and trellising and planting. Oh gosh, it was like 300 tomato plants in that area. So let me zoom back out here. So it's a pretty big area. So this area that the garden is in, about the tip of the garden to the behind the beehives to the wood line is, and then right over to the fence of the front of the garden, that area is about a ½ acre. And in garden space, it looks small here, but I'm standing way up high and you can kind of see it compared to the neighbor's house. But it's about 10,000 square feet in that area. And then we also have, of course, these 3 little beds, and then I have some front flower beds that I will not be putting anything in this year. And then we have all the planters and the bucket gardens and stuff up on the deck. I'll show you that here in a second. So we also have this area right here that is between the garden and the pool. And I feel like it's wasted space. So I kind of want to do something there. So that is eventual expansion area, I believe. The goal is to have from the pool fence all the way back to the wood line in some type of food production. But I'm not sure how that's going to look. And it may be food production as in we may have some natural cottage style flower gardens back around the bees just for them, which would contribute to the honey production. But that way we're not having to be in front of the bees tending vegetables, because I personally do not like getting attacked by bees. I'm allergic. So I don't really want to put like a vegetable garden back there. So for orientation, here's the spot we were just talking about. Here's our in-ground pool. Yes, our land does slope. And then this hot mess up here is actually where we used to have our original garden. And I know I'm looking into the sun here, so it's probably really dark. Let me see if I can get a better view on that. Let's see. Okay. So we had these really big trees that just kind of grew up, and it was blank from here to about there. And these trees up front got really big and started shading the garden. And so we moved that raised bed garden to the backyard. Well, this past year, we actually took all the trees down, and we have somebody who wants them and is supposed to come get them, but he had to move, and then there was some sickness in the family, this, that, and the other. So they have been sitting there for about 8 to 10 months now. And, you know, of course, the brush has grown up around them. So I think we're going to get my neighbor to help us move the logs over to the edge with his tractor until the guy can come get them, because we are going to put in a dwarf orchard. So from the road, I know that's a hideously horrible housing development that they're putting up on that gorgeous 30-acre farm that has been there my entire life, but we're not going to talk about that today. But from the tip of the road to the driveway to the fence on the other side, all the way down and all the way to the wood line behind the beehives, that is exactly an acre. So minus the pool, we want that entire thing in food production. So that whole acre over there will hopefully be eventually food production. That is in the 3-year plan there. And then I've got to figure out what to do with this front yard because it needs some curb appeal desperately. I have not focused on it. Okay, so more hot mess. These are the planter beds on the front porch. They have some dead carrots and a few little dead things in them. I need to get those cleaned out. So those will have something in them. I have some planters up near the front door. I usually keep herbs in them. I usually keep flowers. Right, so flowers, herbs, various raised vegetables. And then we also have this bucket garden that we have been experimenting with, courtesy of the Plants for Human Health Institute and North Carolina State University. They gave this to me. So this had some fall crops and it had some tomatoes and stuff. Obviously it needs to be cleaned out. So we have all of that up here on the front porch as well to plant. Hey everybody, so as I was editing this video, because I wanted it to go out today, since I know a lot of people are stuck inside with the bad weather across the country, I realized how long this was getting. I forget sometimes that to cover my garden space is actually a decent size. And so to kind of walk you through and show you that, even though it's winter and there's not a lot going on in it, it kind of took me a little bit longer than I had planned. So this video is already, I think, like 15 minutes or so. So I don't want to make it twice that length or even longer by adding in the garden planning part, because that's going to take at least the same amount of time and make it double. So I'm going to end this video here and go ahead and get it out today and just do it as a winter garden tour, which I know my garden, it's not a lot going on, like I said, but you kind of needed to see the space to see what I'm working with when I explain how we plan. So I thank you for going along with me on that journey and looking at my hot mess of a garden and the garden spaces that we're going to be working with this summer. And I hope you continue to stay with me as we bring it to life this year. So look for the second part of this video, which is how to garden plan for these spaces, tomorrow. And we will see you then. I hope everyone stays safe and warm through all this crazy weather that half the country is going to be getting over the next few days. So again, stay safe, stay warm, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.